What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfound Orbital. Today I would like to go over a hilt a little bit more in depth, and I also want to talk a little bit about the install. This is for the Shadowfoil Unshielded. So when the renders of this hilt were posted by Sam from Shadowfoil Props, I instantly knew that I wanted to have this hilt in my collection. It is a very, very unique hilt. We've got very, very interesting grip with an exposed crystal chamber. There's a lot of steel, a lot of brass. So this hilt it's a very, very elegant and a very, very pretty hilt. So I knew that I wanted to have this particular hilt in my collection. I also knew, as soon as I looked at the renders for this hilt, my first thought was, how am I going to install that? Because it didn't appear as though there was a lot of room for a battery. I didn't know where I was going to put the board. So I already knew that I was going to have to go with like a smaller battery. So I went with an 18350 battery in this install, and everything came out perfectly. I'm very, very happy with the installation solution that I came up with for this hilt. It was a little bit of a challenge. Like, designing the battery holder wasn't too bad. The Proffie holder, it's probably one of the smallest, if not the smallest, Proffie chassis I've ever designed and implemented. So we'll talk about all that when we go over the chassis and do an up close. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting install. I think one of the most difficult thing about this install was designing and creating a PCB holder for the upper part of the section of the hilt, because we've got a little bit of space requirements in that area with some nuts and bolts. So it was interesting engineering a solution for that, right? And I'm pretty happy with the result. So we're going to come into Fusion and talk about the chassis really quick, and then of course we will come up top and do a demo. So let's come into Fusion. Okay, so here is the chassis. Yes, that is the whole chassis. And this upper part, this is not even the Proffie holder. So let's talk about the bottom first, okay? So this is where the Proffie board lives. Now, one of my first concerns was having the board this close to the speaker. I was afraid we were going to get some false clashes, but to my surprise, after everything was installed, we don't get that. It works, right? It's very, very tight. This is the only amount of space that we have in the pommel area of the crystal chamber. So if you wouldn't be able to put a Proffie board up here. Like, you just would not have room to stack it with a battery, and vice versa. A battery would not fit safely, in my opinion, in this bottom area with a speaker. Right. So this is the solution that I chose to go with, and I'm pretty happy with the result. Very, very tight in this area. Right. So wire up my Proffie, and I bring all of my leads past the exposed crystal chamber into this upper section of the hilt. Now, these two indentations here are where that chassis slides into the actual upper part of the crystal chamber. And then, of course, we've got our battery tray here, right? I did add a kill switch. I wanted to have a kill switch in this build because getting at the battery, it's not actually difficult, right? But because we have an open grip, I wanted to try and get a kill switch in that area so I wouldn't have to slide the entire core out to turn it on and off, right? So we'll talk about this when we do an up close, but I put the kill switch up here, and if you lower the crystal chamber a little bit and slide it and twist it, you can turn that you can hit the kill switch while it's still in the grip, right? Some greebly work along each side of the chassis, and then up top we've got a regular blade side PCB, right? So basically a 3-rail PCB. And that's it. Very, very, very small chassis. Oh yes, and we do have one single tactile button on the chassis as well. This is what the plunger switch activates when you push a switch on the outside of the hilt. That's it, right? Very, very tight build. So let's come up top. All right, so here it is. This is the Unshielded from Shadowfoil Props. Super, super elegant hilt. This thing looks beautiful, right? It is a really, really good looking hilt. So let's talk about the core first, right? So here is the actual core of the hilt, and this slides into the grip. When I was watching Sam's Sam from Shadowfoil Props, when I was watching his disassembly video, to my surprise, the entire core comes out as one piece. So I wanted to take advantage of that and use and design a removable chassis system around it, right? So really, really beautiful crystal chamber. The crystal is a polycarbonate, I'm sorry, it's an acrylic crystal that came with the hilt. I left that in place as is. So we've got some nice steel bars. All of this is brass, and this upper section is aluminum. Just a really, really awesome, elegantly designed crystal chamber core, okay? I added my own extra, completely unnecessary twist. I put an Edison filament, a warm white Edison filament, and wrapped it around that crystal just for some completely unnecessary blinky action because, you know, I'm me and I just like to be extra, right? So here is where the Proffie tray sits, right? So I'm not going to pull this out. I did have to pop one single set screw in here that helps to secure that Proffie tray in place. Obviously, it is not completely removable because we have all of our leads going up through these tubes. Like another really, really great design about this crystal core is that these tubes are hollow, right? So I brought all my leads up through these tubes. There's an option to bring your leads up through some of the holes in the chassis, like where I brought that Edison filament up through. I did not want to have exposed hot leads just coming out through the grip. Even though I'm not going to be picking this up and swinging it around a lot, I don't like having hot leads exposed like that. So I have everything inside of those tubes, right? 28 millimeter speaker at the bottom here. And here is the upper section of the chassis. This is basically the battery holder, right? So I designed it around this aluminum part of the crystal chamber core. So it just slid down. And I actually did add a very, very small 1 millimeter set screw to hold that in place, right? And that's it. Really, really cool core solution. All right, so here is the hilt. I mean, this thing's beautiful. All right, it's very heavy. I believe it is, for the most part, I think it's all steel. I think this might be aluminum, but yeah, steel, brass, really, really awesome veneer here. So this veneer is very, very delicate. Sam does point that out in his walkthrough video. So yeah, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful hilt. Okay. And of course we've got some copper in the crystal chamber, and all of this is brass. Just a really, really, really nice hilt. Okay. So let's talk about how to use this guy. So this is an 18350 build. So let me find my 18350 battery. It seems like I've lost it. Okay, so here is my little baby battery. All right, so I'm gonna put that in my battery tray. I'm gonna hit that kill switch, prepare to be blinded by that. By that Edison filament, right? So it's probably washing out on camera. The way that I lit, so this crystal is also independently lit. I have a 5 millimeter neopixel down here. I get these from KRSabers, and that was the only way I was going to fit a neopixel down here, was by using a smaller one. And up top is just a regular sized neopixel as well. Okay. Yeah, you probably can't even see that on camera. It's so bright. So once I get my battery in, I line up. So there is a, I call this the smiley face greebly. There is a smiley face in this area. I line it up with this curved area of the grip. Slide it all the way in place until it stops. And then I put my pommel on. And then we're ready to go. All right, so let's come down to the bottom here. Okay, so, and then obviously I wanted to light this crystal as well. So this is a very large, quartz. I had one of these laying around. This crystal chamber is absolutely huge. So I wanted to get a big crystal in here. It is nice and cloudy, so it dissipates light really well. So that is lit from above and below with a single neopixel, right? And it sounds good. So again, to my surprise, wow. To my surprise, having the speaker that close to the Proffie board, it's not causing any clashes. Let's switch fonts here. Single button Proffie.
KRSabers.
Really, really awesome. Awesome exposed effect there. Sounds great. All right. Let's put a bleed in it. Okay. Man, this thing is really, really heavy. So this is a 1-inch blade holder. I'm going to rest my blade on those PCB pins. There are 2 set screws along the back side of the hilt. I like when we get more than 1 set screw. And then we're ready to go. One more.
Death to Jedi.
One more. Yeah, it's great. It's a great feeling hilt, right? Because it's so heavy. It does feel like a very, very premium hilt. With all of that being said, for me, this will remain a shelf queen. I mean, I'm probably not going to be putting a blade in this a lot. It will remain on display. This is one of my favorite lightsabers in my collection. So just an absolutely amazing hilt, right? There is I forget to mention, there's a D-ring here. It's like a custom designed D-ring. I'm not sure that I would put this on a belt. It's so heavy. But yeah, just a great hilt. Okay, so that's enough. So that's all I got. I wanted to go over a little bit in depth my install process on this hilt. A lot of people have been asking for a little bit of a detailed video on how I installed it. Again, like full disclosure, I was really not comfortable with putting the board that close to a speaker, right? But there's just really no other way you could attack putting the board down there, right? So anyway, I'm really happy with how it came out. I hope everyone enjoyed. If anyone has any questions about this particular install or anything really, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.